Done. Thank you. This is called Ways to Listen. There's lonely listening when sitting in a crowd. Open listening as one listens, eyes closed, to the wind in the cottonwood leaves. Numb listening as one listens to detergent commercials. Baffled listening as one tries to discern if the speaker could possibly believe what they say. And full body listening as the cello plays. Sometimes I've felt my whole being break with delight in joyful listening to my daughter's laughter. And break equally with the unbearable listening as the soil falls on the casket. There's the holy listening when we listen for the dead and dead. And greedy listening in which every other utterance is merely a ladder rung. And greedy listening in which every other utterance is merely a ladder rung for stepping into your own story. Selfless listening knows only to receive. There's the way you sometimes listen to me, as if my words are waves on the river, not something to interpret, but something familiar. And the way you sometimes listen to my silence and know precisely what I mean. There's nervous listening as one listens to the mouse in the wall. And vast listening, like when on a clear night lit only by stars, I can almost sense how the universe not only sings through my body, but listens to itself and knows itself in the listening. And that's the end of the poem. And I think it's a lovely entree to the topic, and I'll hand to you, Leanne.
Thanks, Pip. Yes, absolutely. It is definitely, it captures so much about listening, doesn't it? And funny and sad as well at the same time. Yeah, so I'm going to spend the next maybe, 20 minutes or so. We just go through some different aspects of listening. At the moment, I'm coming to the kind of closing end of writing my PhD, and end could go on for a while yet, but anyway, it feels like it's coming to an end. Anyway, so at the moment I'm writing a chapter about group dysfunction and group relational tension. And I was kind of struggling with it a little bit, and then I was kind of thinking, rather than kind of looking at overarching factors that lead to relational tensions like identity and privilege and violence and power dynamics, I kind of thought I would explore some of the things that are underneath these relational tensions. because when we look underneath, what can be revealed is a set of skills that we can learn and practice together to increase group solidarity and well-being. And one of those skills is listening. So we're just going to touch lightly on listening today. It's, a massive topic. What we're doing today is not exhaustive by any means. I know that everyone in this group is very skilled at listening. You're all practitioners. So this is a bit of a refresher, I guess, a reminder in some ways of what listening is about. So listening is foundational in any exchange, and it's the first step in communicating well. And in fact, I think when we practice deep listening, we really get in touch with our authentic self, into being, the we consciousness, and we're letting the speaker know that we're not giving up on them, that we're here for them. So listening skills are made up of a bunch of subskills, or the skill of listening is made up of a bunch of subskills, and some of the ones that I'll probably cover today, if I get enough time, are things like active listening, asking clarifying questions, listening for unmet needs, and of course our favourite, psychological flexibility, self-reflection. So active listening is a skill, like the poem suggests, that we do with our whole being, without preconceptions or judgment. And but some of the traps that we fall into when we think we are listening, but actually prevent us from connecting empathetically, include responding with behaviours such as advising. There's a bunch of them. I'll read through some of them, like advising, which is kind of like, I think you should, or how come you don't? And then there's one-upping. Oh, that's nothing. Wait till you hear what happened to me. Then there's educating. This could turn into something very positive for you if you just... then there's storytelling. That reminds me of the time, blah, blah, blah. There's shutting down. Cheer up, don't feel so bad. Interrogating. When did this begin? And correcting. That's not how it happened. And these ways of listening aren't bad or wrong. They're just not active listening to connect empathetically. Connecting and listening deeply with empathy begins with a mindset of openness, generosity, and curiosity. And this means coming to the conversation in good faith, giving the speaker the benefit of the doubt, and moving from judgment to an inquiry mindset. Active listening, the skill requires listening without interpretation, in silence, and that generally means just, obviously there's lots of active body micro movements and that sort of thing. And when the speaker has finished speaking, you paraphrase or reflect back what you've heard, and then check in to see if what you've heard is right. So essentially, that's a practice. A bit later, Pip's going to take us through another active listening exercise, which has a few other factors in it, but this is kind of the core of it. yeah, so sorry, my dog is just coming in and out of the room, wanting me to have a cuddle on the couch, I'm sure. So yeah, does anyone want to share an experience they've had in this context, active listening context, that they'd like to share? Or questions, comments?
I'm just remembering when I was in England, I was part of a community. It was called co-counseling, and they shared the time and they practice active listening, and it wasn't in a therapeutic context. So sometimes when I teach active listening to groups, they're really surprised that listening is something you can practice and learn, and that it changes a lot. So that's what I'm thinking when I listen to you. It's something we take maybe for granted as therapists, but many people don't know what it means. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Sorry. He's
sweet
very...
doggy. I know.
Can you give him a cuddle on your lap, or does he have to go on the lounge there, the sofa?
He's a bit big for my lap,
Big. Okay.
but we'll see what he does.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Yes, I continue to find it quite challenging to listen to something that I don't want to hear. And it might, stir up very uncomfortable feelings in me. And I know the theory, the psych-flex theory, I know that. Noticing and being compassionate and all that, I know all that, but I still find it very difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's really tricky, isn't it? It's hard because there's so many emotions sort of flying around. Makes it, kind of really challenging. So, that's kind of interesting because that kind of leads into this next area that I want to cover, which is clarifying questions. Oh, Sophia, great. Hello, Sophia.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
Apologies for not being able to join it sooner.
What's that?
I'm sorry I couldn't join earlier due to working hours.
Welcome, Sophia. We're just, we've started, so I hope you
Of
can
course.
connect with us. Yes, thank you.
So just for Sophia's benefit, we're just going through some listening skills. Essentially it's a refresher because I'm sure we're all very skilled in listening, given that a lot of people have a practitioner background or a therapist background. So so I'm just kind of running through a few of the kind of basics of listening. And the next one that I'm going to cover is called asking clarifying questions. And although asking questions doesn't sound like a listening activity, listening to the answers is, and it's really important. So in a heated discussion, how we make sense of what we hear can be loaded with assumptions and judgments and misunderstanding. And in an effort to short circuit negative reactions and outcomes, the listening skill of asking clarifying questions can go a long way to forestall that. So when a discussion begins, many of us come to the table with divergent views. And as we sit in conversation, hearing each other's perspective, we may feel or find that we feel a sense of discomfort, you know, kind of like we're just not on the same page. And also often a speaker's ability to get their point across in a coherent way, especially in groups when there's a lot of kind of stuff going on, can be challenging. And this miscommunication can result in misunderstanding. But, you know, like in any discussion, divergent views and misunderstanding are common and normal. A guy who's written quite a lot about this is a fellow called Sam Kainer, and he calls this the groan zone. You know, when we're trying to work through something and there's a lot of divergent views and we're sitting in this kind of uncomfortable space, and he calls it the groan zone, which I really love. It works really well. So when discomfort arises for the listener,
Could you
rather
put it
than
in
feeling
the chat, please? The name I didn't.
Sam Kainer, SAMKANER. He has written a book on facilitating decision making, a decision making process. So he's like a participatory decision making process. Yeah. So rather than filling in the gaps by jumping to conclusions and making assumptions, it's important to learn the speaker's point of view. And we can do that by asking clarifying questions and obviously listening carefully to the answers. So asking clarifying questions is the skill kind of begins by taking the time to listen carefully to what the speaker has to say, and then asking questions when you hear something that needs further explanation or that triggers discomfort. And we can ask questions like, what do you mean by? Or can you say more about? Did I hear correctly when you said? Did I hear you say? You know, these kinds of clarifying questions invite further explanation, and often, you know, when we get further explanation, we can, you know, deepen our understanding. And so during this kind of exchange, the listener's challenge is to pay attention to how they ask the clarifying questions with kindness and compassion. And the speaker's challenge is not to hear the clarifying question as an attack or a criticism. It's just about getting clarity on their perspective. And this exchange, this kind of exchange can build, you know, a partnership ethos. It builds trust and patience and goes a long way to promoting shared understanding. Yeah, so any questions or comments? Any experiences of this that you'd like to share? Just jump in. Or is this brand new?
I'm happy to share. I think I've noticed, depending on my state of being and my level of presence, especially in tense conversation, especially with individuals where I feel misunderstood or like my point might not come across, I also notice that I tend to make many more assumptions. And so the clarifying questions really just help pause, to take a step back and to say, let's breathe before I get wound up in my emotional interpretation of what I think you just said, because maybe that's not what you were saying, but you just used words that put me on high alert. So I think it just helps also bring a breather and calm the pace if everyone's just thinking about getting their point across or Yeah, so I find it very, very valuable.
Thanks, Sophia.
I just remembered when somebody used this as a technique, it felt offensive when it doesn't come from the heart. And yeah, it's you also need this quality, I think, of connecting to the heart when you ask clarifying questions, because sometimes it's just being used as a technique and then it's awful. But maybe I'm sensitive, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I think you're right, Odette. Like any practice that we have in groups can be gamed, really, and so when we're not, really kind of connecting with compassion for true connection, yeah, definitely it comes across as inauthentic and even damaging. Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
I think that sometimes it can even be harsh. Like someone say, well, what do you mean? Kind of, really short, curt kind of statement. So yeah, I can relate to what Odette is saying about that. I can also relate to what Sophia says in the benefit of asking a clarifying question, because you're right. I mean, I know that there's been a number of times when I'd be like, well, tell me more about what you mean in this area, because I'm not quite sure. And they say something is completely different than the direction my mind was going. So definitely important.
I agree.
Yeah, and I imagine sometimes there'd be a bit of a choice if what they've just said had an emotional load, whether you would ask a clarifying question first or acknowledge the emotion first. There sometimes would be that call, I imagine.
Absolutely. I guess it's yeah, definitely. I guess it would depend on how it's kind of inculcated into your group culture, how comfortable it is amongst group participants. And I think once it's kind of something that happens regularly, I think it takes a lot of the heat out of it and the problematic side out of it, or it raises it and then it just becomes it can become quite toxic. So yeah, it's a difficult dance, that's for sure.
Is it okay to just add one thought that just came as I heard everyone speak? Because I think it's, where are we coming from when we ask the question? I think, Odette, it's very true, because I know a number of times I felt like the question was asked to criticize, or to be like, to pick a hole in my reasoning, and to be like, well, what do you mean? Like, this doesn't make sense, or like, more in a judgmental way. So I think where it comes from, but I think it's also the quality of presence when we listen to the answer, because if not, then, if it's really to understand and to take a breather, then it makes all the difference, and it will be felt, and then we can reflect back. Oh, thank you for explaining that. Is this what you meant? Am I correct in hearing that? But also, if we don't actually listen to the answer, even though the question's been asked, then I think it can escalate, and it's even more frustrating for the person who's had to explain themselves, and then they're feeling judged, and then the person who asked the question is still not listening. And so yeah, it's not only in how we pose the question, but it's also how we receive the information and what we do afterwards as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. how are we going for time? Pip, do we want to keep going, or you want to jump into the practice?
To be honest, I think this group is highly skilled, and we've got 40 minutes, so I think it's worth, by all means ask the group, but I'm finding this worthwhile discussion, and I know you've got 2 more to cover. I'd be happy for you to do so, but why don't you check in with the others as well? Because we can also do some practice, but it is the traditional listening practice, Odette, that you'd be familiar with, where somebody speaks and the other person notices for values and emotion, and reflects back, and then the original speaker, confirms or otherwise that they heard, received their message. So that we're all quite skilled. I can see that. I'm feeling less necessity to do practice, Leanne, but possibly we should. So what do the others think? Please speak up.
Well, I think when we practice, we get to know each other a little bit.
Okay.
And being
And Cynthia?
who is also nice. So, doing those.
True.
I could go either way. I kind of was when you were describing it, I was like agreeing with you, Pip. I too am a little bit tired, so I don't know how well I'm going to be listening tonight, because it's 9:30 here in Hawaii. So I think it's morning time for you guys over in Germany. I don't know where you're from, Sophia. And I guess it's kind of earlier for you too. In Australia, you're like 4 hours earlier than, I think it's like what, 5:30 there?
Yep.
Yeah, it's late afternoon.
It's Wednesday for me.
Where are you, Sophia? Where are you calling in from?
I'm in Barcelona in Spain.
Barcelona?
Yeah.
Ah, great. Okay.
So it's also morning here.
Yes.
But I'm also very tired, as I've worked since quite a few hours this morning already.
So, well, maybe I'll just keep going for a little bit longer, and
Okay.
if people are happy to have this discussion.
And maybe we could do get to know afterwards, or we could do a shortened version of the exercise if we feel at the end.
Yeah,
Like just an open flow conversation.
sounds good. Is that, yeah? All right. So another type of listening I wanted to cover was listening for unmet needs. So I'm not sure if people are familiar with Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication work, but this is kind of based on his stuff. And yeah, so just like active listening and listening to the answers of clarifying questions is kind of moves us towards a deeper understanding on an issue. So can the skill of listening for unmet needs. And needs are, they're kind of the fundamental motivators that come, sorry, I'm really tired as well, that we come to see as everything that a human requires to thrive and to have a meaningful life. And needs are universal, regardless of sex, gender, race, religion. We all have the same needs. We have physical needs like water or fluid, shelter, air, food, and we have psychological needs, for instance, autonomy, peace, understanding, emotional safety, those kinds of things. Unfortunately, in most conflict situations, needs aren't overtly expressed. So listening for them can be quite a challenge, especially when things get heated and the speaker's ability to articulate their position can get muddled. So the skill here is to kind of train ourselves to hear people expressing needs regardless of the way they express them, and to translate any message into an expression of a need. And this can be tricky, right? So often what happens is we might even find ourselves guessing, because we can't always guess right, and we just guess and we check in with the person. Are you, is this what you're needing? And they'll certainly correct us pretty quickly if we got it wrong. And sometimes the act of kind of this simple dialogue, identifying needs and reflecting back, can kind of generate a sense of being heard, and which can kind of lower the temperature of an exchange. And, Marshall Rosenberg's, work, if you Google it, you'll find lists of needs and feelings that help with this kind of process. So, yeah, that's essentially the essence of it. Would anyone like to share an experience they've had in this context, or comments, questions?
I'm not really sure if this is the right juncture to bring this up, but I was just reminded of sometimes when I've worked with people, I've also needed to say to them, if you express something that you heard the other person say, and they say, no, that's not what I said, to give them the space to rephrase, because I think a lot of people, because it's usually about sensitive subjects, people will say, but I heard you say this, this, this. And so it becomes part of the issue. And, so to give the person grace in being it, because once you hear what the other person heard, you hear what they say about what you said, it might not be what you really wanted to express, because sometimes it's hard to articulate what is needed to be said.
Yeah, absolutely, Cynthia, absolutely, I agree. Yeah, it's hugely challenging to convey what you want to say, have it heard in the way you want it heard, and then have it land in the, yeah, it always astounds me how often we, this can be, a point of conflict, or, a point of upset or whatever. Yeah, for sure. Anyone else?
I've got a question and just a scenario this has made me think of, or like a lived experience it's made me think of. I guess one question was, I think I'd like to revisit the list of needs, because I was sort of thinking, don't all needs come back to needing to feel a sense of belonging or a sense of safety in that context, and it will manifest in different ways. But the psychological needs, just needing to remember that, yeah, that in expressing whatever it is that we're trying to express, the other person is genuinely understanding and listening to us, and that we still belong even if they disagree, or that there can still be a relationship or like a connection. But it made me think of last night. So at the moment I'm between many things, and one of the things I have the honor of doing is looking after young children, and I look after two little girls. And yesterday we were walking home, and they are 6 and 4 years old now, and two sisters. And we were walking home, and I was telling them a story as we walk, which they quite enjoyed. And at one point, the youngest was to my left, and Maria, who's slightly older, was just next to her. And Maria wanted to come next to me, and Juliette pushed her away, and she was like, "No, this is my place, and I'm next to Sophia." And so then they started fighting and hitting each other, and it ended up in tears. And then because children's emotions are so fragile, and also they can't control it, but it's how do we de-escalate the situation when both don't want to speak to each other and go the opposite direction, and yet bring them back, give them a moment to breathe, and also acknowledge that both of their feelings were hurt, and that they can both sort of reconciliate and come back together. And I've noticed both Maria and Juliet have very different ways of reacting, but what worked really well last night, which hasn't always worked in the past, and then we end up in this conundrum that takes hours to get home, it was making sure that I made sure that both of the girls felt safe, and that that I was there for them, and that it's okay. It's okay to get upset. It's okay to disagree. However, it's not okay to hit each other. Both of them got hurt, and so there is space for repair. But there was also physical contact. Like with Maria, she will walk away and she will sulk and she'll run away afterwards. But actually, if I just come and I was like, "Would you like a hug?" If I hold her hand, then she will come back. And once the physical connection was made, then she would stay to talk. And she eventually said sorry to her sister, and then her sister eventually said sorry when they were ready, not forced, not because they were told to do it, but because they were ready to say sorry. And it was just, yeah, what was made me think about this in this context of needs is like it's sometimes hard to perceive what the need is, because the behavior will be the opposite. So Maria will run away or push away, but actually all she wants is really to be held, and to and to feel that connection, and then to be calmed down and to say it's okay, you didn't do anything wrong, but both of you did get upset and you both hurt your feelings. And so how would you feel? What would you want in this moment? And she said, I want my sister to say sorry. And I said, okay, well, do you feel ready to say sorry? And, like allow them that space. Yeah, it's just hard to, even within ourselves sometimes, when I'm upset and I recognize what I know I need something, but sometimes I won't even know how to express it myself. And I get annoyed at myself for not knowing, but I also get annoyed at the other person if they're not noticing that there's an underlying need that's not being met.
Mm.
And for me, it usually leans towards belonging and feeling like I'm still safe and I'm still valued and understood, even if I have a different opinion or something like that.
Mm. I can relate to all of that. Absolutely.
And do you have any
Yeah,
tips
I
on
just
identifying?
go ahead, Sophia.
No, it was more like, because the question behind my question is also, am I projecting what I think the other's needs are? Or it's like, how do we really, like, do you have any tips on sensing into what is the genuine need in that moment that isn't your own projection because you're also emotionally engaged in the conversation?
With children,
And I all.
I think it'd be slightly different with adults, but and I'll leave the children question to probably people in the group that are more skilled than I am with children. But yeah, I mean, this is it again. It's just about keeping the lines of communication open. You know, checking in, reflecting back. Yeah, it's just about building that capacity to listen for needs, check in. Yeah, it's just this. Yeah, it's a skill set, really, essentially, and it takes practice.
I'm thinking sometimes people focus on their needs in the hope to self-regulate. And my observation is this, regulation is what has to come first. I don't know if you know this model of the brain as a hand. Yes, brain, limbic system, amygdala, and front brain. And when we're emotionally upset, we're kind of offline. And there's this saying about regulate, relate, and then reason. I think then we can get to the needs. And sometimes people try get at the needs without being regulated. And it's difficult. So that's why I like ProSocial, because we have this psychological flexibility built in, and that's a lot about self-regulating. Yeah, that's sort of my thinking when I listen to you, to all of you. Yeah. And for the children as well, to regulate, and then you can relate, and then you can, yeah. I don't know. That's just my idea.
I think
makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, for me, I think even if what we do as listeners is not super skilled, if we're giving the impression that we care, I think we can get away with being less than perfect, because if people pick up that you care, then their amygdala and whole is settling down and they're feeling less threatened. And I think that it does come down to caring. Would you agree, Leanne?
Absolutely. It's about authenticity, about compassion, about kindness. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. It's about, letting the person know that you're not going to give up on them, that you're there for them. And that is the essence of listening, I think. I think that's really important. Definitely. Any more comments? So what have we got? We've got 20 minutes, Pip. Shall we?
We can do it, because the last one is psych flex, but I guess you can.
We all know about.
We all know about that. Yeah. Okay, good. It's a lovely outline and an overview to kick us off, Leanne. Thank you so much. It was really, I can see you put so much thought into the topic, and wish you luck with your PhD, writing it up. That's great. So I think it would be nice to do some practice. We have 2 and 3, and as Odette said, part of it, the purpose would be to get to know each other, and the other part would be to be able to listen. So given that we're all fairly skilled at this, I'm trying to think of how could we up the, and I'm open to ideas here because I've only just had this thought, how could we up the ante to make the listening, slightly harder than just a routine exercise, which we'll all be very good at. I wonder what might, anyway, look, if you can think of it in your breakout of, I know I'm not suggesting this, but I did hear someone being asked to talk about America, and they were American, and it was really, really hard for them to do. And it was really hard for other Americans to listen to. So I don't really suggest that, but that was, quite an edgy topic, I suppose. I'll leave it to you, but an innocuous question might be, what's your personal learning challenge or that you have in listening? That would be a question that you could respond to in the breakout. Or if you want to talk about something that, is a bit edgy, and give the other person the practice of listening to that I'll leave it to you. So I think we're mostly familiar with the instructions because we've all done it quite a bit, but the instruction is that there'll be, actually it's going to be a 2 and a 3 in a breakout. And so in the 3, someone could take the role of listener and reflect. We'll have 2 listener reflectors. So there'll be one A person who's speaking and 2 Bs that are listening and reflecting back. Okay, so the process is that I'll try and time it. We've got now just say 15 minutes because we want time to come back and debrief and check out. Might be fairly short. So let's cut it down a bit. Say 3 minutes for person A to talk about anything they want, or that topic of what they find difficult about listening or something a bit harder to listen to. Then we've got 2 minutes for person B or the 2 person Bs to reflect back to the person A speaker. And then we've got 1 minute for the speaker to say spot on or, well, not quite. So 3, 2, 1 makes 6 minutes each. Any questions about what we're going to be doing? That's clear. Okay, well, that's great. I think we'll go to breakout rooms. So we'll do it in automatic, 2 breakout rooms. Yeah. And so if you can, each group can self-time 3, 2, 1, that would be great. Thank you. See you back soon. Bye.
Just us.
Where are the others?
I guess they're coming back. They are coming back.
Well, in a way, we
And
did our exercise implicitly.
exactly. And we slightly tweaked the questions,
Yes,
but that's okay.
I think so.
Yes, I found it valuable.
Yeah, me too. Mhm.
Hello. We're
Hello.
back. Hi, Leanne will be on her way. So we've just got time to wrap up now. If we're on time, but we just take a minute to perhaps say how we experienced that exercise and the session. A quick check out, go round. Who'd like to go first?
Me.
Thanks, Odette. Thank
I'd
you.
really like to appreciate this exercise, doing it with Sophia and getting to know you a little bit. And I have the feeling we connected on our cognitive and heart level, and it was really valuable. And I really liked your questions, and it brought me a little bit deeper in myself and in my development. Thank you. Mhm.
Thank
So,
you. I can.
it on, or does it just flow?
Yeah, Sophia, why don't you go?
No, I just have a huge appreciation for this group, and the fact that we're taking the time to touch on this and to be in resonance and to support each other, I guess, in all of our various fields of work. I think for me that gives me a lot of nourishment, and I really appreciate Odette as well, having had that time one-on-one to connect on a deeper level. And I feel very inspired, and yes, I'm just very grateful, feeling a little less alone. Sometimes feeling very alone in this work now and in these worlds. And it's so nourishing to come together. So thank you so much. Cynthia, would you like to share it?
Well, I think we had similar experiences. At least I feel I did in with that connection and just getting to know Pip and Leanne more. It was a wonderful experience to share and to hear what you both had to say. And I also want to just really quickly say thank you for putting this together. I really enjoyed it. I'm so glad that I saw the email when I did, and that I figured out that it was Wednesday for me. And I was like, oh, perfect, I can do it. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, all of you, for a lovely sharing. Leanne and I didn't obviously know how many people would come, but we loved this session, and thank you so much to all of you contributing. Yeah, it was great. Over to you, Leanne. Good question. Are you all in the Community of Practice WhatsApp group? Are you, Cynthia? You might give your phone number to Sophia and she can put you in.
Oh, okay.
If you give her your mobile.
If you'd like to, Cynthia, but then we've also created a calendar that you can sync with your calendar, and then you'll be able to see all of the Community of Practice times in your local time zone. So that should be able to help.
Well, I'll give you my phone number.
Is that a +1? Is that a US?
Oh,
country code?
yeah, that's well, it's US, yes.
Right. Thank you.
Sorry, Leanne, you're the last. Checking out.
Okay. Yeah, checking out. Yeah, look, I'm really grateful that everyone showed up and had this opportunity to, because it's great to have these kinds of conversations. I learnt a lot. So yeah, it's really helpful. And yeah, I mean, when I sit in a practice of listening, like the one we just did, if there's authenticity, it always makes me feel so much better. Nourishing is a great word, Sophia. Thank you for supplying that, because it really is. Yeah, I really appreciate having people seeing me and hearing me, and yeah, reflecting that back to me. It's just a beautiful practice. So thank you. Thanks everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everyone. And Sophia, are you on the US one tomorrow? Well, it's my tomorrow. No. Okay. Thank you. Bye, everyone. We'll see you
Thanks,
next
Pip.
time.
Bye,
Yeah,
nice
good
to
luck
meet
tomorrow.
everybody.